Hello and welcome to Two Trees Gaming. I've got the first of 8 days in a row of content for you. If you're watching these as they're released, hopefully it'll give you some entertainment and a bit of company over the Christmas period. Feel free to crack some paints. It's just going to be me going through the army books for the very first time and giving my initial reaction. So the first video will be me going through the good army profiles from the Armies of the Lord of the Rings book, making note of anything that might have changed, offering a little opinion on it. And then the next day we'll be going through the Armies of the Lord of the Rings, then the evil profiles, evil armies, and then good Hobbit profiles, good Hobbit armies, evil Hobbit profiles, and evil Hobbit armies. I'm not going to be attempting to rank them in any way. I've not played a game of the new edition yet, and this is the first time I'm seeing 95% of this. I saw about half a dozen profiles and half a dozen army lists before the books came out, and then I just hid from the internet. So what you're getting here is genuine reaction, and I'm going to miss a few things. I know that I missed the fact that Tariel has expert shot when we get to that, and it's quite hard to take note of, oh, this army's lost its banner or how that might play. But what you are going to get is just me essentially on Christmas morning. I know I filmed these on the 14th of December, but I was just so excited waiting for these books. So you're just going to get genuine reaction, genuine excitement, and hopefully something to just paint along to. The channel going forward, I know people want battle reports. They're coming in February. We're filming on the 17th of January. The first half of every year is just crazy for me in terms of my real life job. This time last year, I took 6 months off. I'm going to try and keep content coming, but it's probably going to be every other week. Battle reports from February. We are going to do a board build of Amon Hen, and I've got a few other little bits to sprinkle in as and when needed. But thoroughly enjoying making the content, looking forward to getting back to actually hobbying, painting, building things over Christmas, and getting a game in on the new edition. But right now, it's the good profiles for the Armies of the Lord of the Rings. Enjoy. So, Free Peoples, Frodo, he's basically the same. What I do like is the change to the One Ring. I don't know if you saw our Battle of Five Armies battle report. It was excellent fun. But I've always had a problem with how the ring worked before, in that you'd stick the ring on with Frodo and then actively want to charge him into a Balrog to half the fight value so that then Aragorn can plough him with Andril and you kill the Balrog. That's not the case anymore. If you turn invisible, you do half the fight value of the opponent, but only if it's a 1v1. It just feels more thematic. You then all of a sudden want to keep Bilbo away from the troll, and the ring is being used for defensive purposes, or maybe a Hail Mary. I guess when it comes to a seal door, he's going to be pretty good, but let's carry on. I like Sam's frying pan rule. So on a 4+, he can stop an opponent moving for a turn. Nice little addition, that. Oh, Merry and Pippin have got an extra fate point. That helps justify the 10 points that you chuck Merry and Pippin in thinking, oh, I'll do it for thematic reasons. That you're always better off with a couple of hobbits or somebody else. 2 fate points, much more worthwhile. Gandalf has 2 attacks now. Gandalf the Grey, this is. I've seen Gandalf the White. But Gandalf the Grey has 2 attacks now. Excellent. And his magic is similar to how it was, although magic on the whole has obviously been debuffed a little bit. I like the addition of foil magic as well. That's going to let him turn off spells that go to exhaustion. Very cool. But I'm just reading about his cart now. It looks like he can set off different types of fireworks to have different effects. Luckily for Aaron, if you've seen our Throne of Schools video, he still can fire a Strength 2 hit, so he still can bring down a Balrog. This cart is excellent. The horse is 20 points. The cart is only 25. I thought maybe it would move like a chariot, but it doesn't, which is great. And he's got 4 fireworks. One makes the opponent get -1 on their duel rolls. That's huge. All of a sudden he can plough into a hero and drain a point of might from them, or drop a monster down to needing a 5, and then the monster, or only being able to get a 5, and then the monster can't raise that to a 6 using a might point. Jump it with a few guys and you game on. He can knock models prone, cause a strength 2 hit, and once per game, knock them prone and cause a strength 8 hit. Very cool. I think that cart is going to be a very, very popular going forward. And I guess the way the Legendary Legions work, you're not going to be taking Gandalf the Grey like on his cart with Minas Tirith. It's going to be with the Shire, which I guess is why it's more powerful. Maybe that balances that out, but loving that. Very, very cool. Aragorn we've seen and I've been through in another video. Love the changes, love the magical resistance. And Legolas I've also seen as a spoiler, but I'm just going to remind myself because it was a while ago. I love the changes to Legolas. This is one of the best models I've seen changed. Before you'd take him so you could snipe a horse or a mount or something. You still can. He's got the sharpshooter rule, which is where you can choose mount or rider. But the other additional rules are great. I mean, I thought he might go up to 3 attacks. I'm glad that he hasn't, because we need to keep him on par with Gimli. And I think giving him 3 attacks and a bow and everything, he'd be 130 points or whatever. Shoot value 2+. Love that. Doesn't get the -1 penalty for moving and shooting. He can also shoot while engaged in combat, including against opponents he's fighting. That's so good and so thematic. He can shoot into combats if they're engaged with a friendly model, and he doesn't need to make in the way test, so he could maybe unsurround a Gimli, but again, it all feels very Amon Hen. And getting the bonuses to wound when making shooting attacks if Gimli's ahead feels so much better than to hit, especially now he's got a shoot value of 2+. And that's not just going to be at the start of the game now, because he'll be able to shoot in combat throughout the whole game. Legolas, I love the changes, thematically, at least. Gimli has 3 fate now. That's about time. I'm really glad to see Gimli's got 3 fate. I'd like to have seen him gone up to 3 attacks maybe, but otherwise, very happy with that profile. Not much changed about it. He does feel like he's worse than Legolas, but then him getting an extra fate point with his defense 8 is actually quite a big upgrade. And I'm glad to see that Boromir of Gondor still has 0 fate. Fight value 7. Wait, what was Gimli? Boromir's fight value 7 now. Nice. The Horn of Gondor's the same, and he's got a new rule, I think it's a new rule anyway, called Protect the Little Ones. While he's within 3 inches of one of the Fellowship Hobbits, he can re-roll failed to wound rolls when making strikes. That's going to give him a bit of punch, which is good. But crucially, it's going to make you want to take the Hobbits. We need a reason to take the Hobbits and keep the game thematic and story-driven. That's a reason. Love it. And I guess what you could do is have... I mean, you're probably going to be outnumbered, but let's say you're fighting a troll. Boromir and Pippin move into a troll together. Boromir could strike. Pippin can then use the rule that allows him to use Boromir's might to combat, using 2 of Boromir's might points, but then you can combat off that troll and move into another model. And bearing in mind, he gets to re-roll his failed to wounds. He's still got 4 might left. You're probably going to bring down a troll in 1 turn, although I do know monsters have improved, so maybe trolls are going to be a bit harder to kill, but in theory, that would work. Aaron, you'll be very happy to know I don't think Build a Pony has changed. You're still going to get your Might, Will or Fate back on a 5+ at the end of the turn, although it can only be used once per turn, but I think that was always the case. So Bilbo Baggins' Aging Hobbit is fight value 3. If anything, I thought he would have gone down to fight value 1. What is old Bilbo doing in a fight? I suppose he does go for Gandalf. He uses the One Ring in the same way models previously did, so it will halve the fight value of even if there's other models in the fight as well. Not sure about that one. So Lobelia has had quite an upgrade. Enemy warrior models can't benefit from a hero's standfast within 6 inches. I can't remember if that affected both friend and foe before, but that's really good. Like, really good for the endgame, especially if you just keep her at the back of the board. But also, she can spend one of her 4 will points to roll a dice on a 2+, a model within 6 inches and line of sight can't activate this turn, and if it's in combat, their fight value and attacks are reduced to 1. Doesn't affect monsters, chariots or war beasts, but that's insanely powerful. And I can't see that there's a way to resist that. It doesn't say it's like a magical power, so that is... I think Lobelia might be the first name on all Shire lists from now. Farmer Maggot's had a little buff. He doesn't suffer the -1 penalty for using his two-handed weapon. So Gaffer Gamgee I don't think has changed much, but Rosie Cotton... Again, I didn't use the Hobbits loads before, but I have got them all ready to go and painted. And I'm pretty confident Rosie's changed. She's a banner now for 6 inches, and as long as she's alive at the end of the game, you'll also get banner victory points for her in scenarios where that counts. And Sam's going to be re-rolling failed strikes whilst he's within 3 inches of her. Love that. I'm pretty sure there used to be a lot of old re-roll ones with Hobbits. I'll do this. Little tiny incremental things. Lobelia and Rosie and the extra fate point on Merry and Pippin, they feel like tangible changes that are going to make the Shire a lot more playable. Fellowship models within 6 inches of Barlaman count as having the dominant 2 special rule. So Smeagol can let Frodo and Sam move through difficult terrain now, which is cool. I am surprised he's only got 1 fate. I mean, spoiler alert, obviously he does die at the end, but I feel like he's a 2 fate character at least. Okay, we're on to some Ents now. And I'm loving the changes to monsters. Hurl is obviously a little worse than it used to be, but the actual striking and being able to hit spears and things like that is just awesome. And the fact that we're going to have less prone markers all over the table, I'm all here for it. Treebeard, 4 attacks, 4 wounds. Holy moly. Dominant 5, large target, terror fearless, range 18, strength 10, throw stones. That's crazy. But that Treebeard, that is the first, alongside Legolas, the first profile that's had big changes. And it's still only 190 points. Wow. Merry and Pippin work the same. And Bludgeon works the same as it did as well. But Treebeard, love it. Beachbone is still in the game. Does that mean we're going to get a model for Beachbone? And he must feature in the film then. I know there was the Wetter thing. They had to rename Quickbeam to Birchseed because of how he appeared in the official Wetter arc. So I assume Beachbone is also in the official Wetter arc. So maybe we are still going to get a model for him. I'm surprised he's in here if we're not. I can't believe Treebeard. 4 wounds and 3 fate. Love that. I presume he's only going to be taken with Ents now, though. You're not going to be allaying Treebeard into a load of elves, but we'll see how it pans out. So Birchseed, I think they might be trolling us with his special rule. It says naturally unhasty is essentially the opposite of Quickbeam, but what it does do is let him call a free heroic move on turns where you've won priority and given it to the opponent. I'm sure there'll be niche scenarios where that's very useful. He has only got a 6-inch move though. He is just Birchseed. He's not Quickbeam. Hopefully we will see a Quickbeam, maybe even in the Armies of Middle-earth book, because obviously he's a book character. Ents themselves are largely the same, but they've got this dominant special rule. 100 points still, but Ents in general looking good. Interested to see what their list is going to be. I'm assuming it's going to be a little more than what they had before, where previously they couldn't be affected by magical powers and things like that. I'm hoping they still have that, but maybe Merry and Pippin will get like a +1 to wound on their stones and things like that. I mean, they are popping off Uruk-hai and Orcs in Isengard. A fine hit, some would say. Okay, Eagles. Gwahir is up to 3 attacks and looks pretty good off it. He's not got Heroic Strike, so his fight value 8, but the lack of Heroic Strike probably balances him out quite nicely, especially as his points haven't gone up. Great Eagles are as they always have been. They've got this dominant special rule, of course, which a lot of the monsters have. And then fledgling Great Eagles are exactly what I kind of expected. 1 less fight value, 1 less strength, 1 less defense, and they're 75 points instead of 100. Obviously, that's the tie-in with the War of the Rohirrim film and the fledgling eagle we see in that. But crucially, it's so that you can take these at more varied points levels. Eagles are now a viable option at 700, 750 and 800 points. You're not going to have to drop 50 points or something like that. So that was the Free Peoples. Really happy with the changes there. The ones that stand out is, of course, Legolas's changes, Treebeard's changes, but also the extra fate points for the hobbits and Gimli, and Gandalf's cart. Very excited to see how that goes, and maybe even run a Shire list with Lobelia and Gandalf. Onto the Kingdom of Rohan, and I'm assuming there's going to be quite a lot of new in this section because of the War of the Rohirrim film. Right, King Theoden. So he's got a new sword, or not a new sword, but Herogrim has a different rule now where essentially he's got an extra half a fight value. So if your fight value is drawn, then Theoden automatically wins. So he's not fight value 6, he's still fight value 5. But if he comes up against another fight value 5 character, he will win without it going to a roll-off. That could be very powerful. He has Heroic Strike. If he strikes up to 8 or 7 and is up against a Troll or an Azog or something like that, not going to the roll-off could be massive. But I suppose this is where the D3 change to fight value is quite important. Whereas previously it would have been D6, everybody's fight value 10. That's very, very powerful. Now, if he's up against a Glorfindel or an Azog, they can strike and almost always beat him. I like Snowmane's little special rule as well. Theoden can re-roll any courage checks to charge terrifying models. Theodred is largely the same. He's gone up to fight value 6, which is obviously big. But we just need a new model for Theodred. That is got to be one of the most dated models in the whole range. Mine's a conversion from spare bits of Éomer and Durnelm. Kind of works, but I am hoping for an official Theodred model. And then Éomer is also fight value 6. There will be people rejoicing up and down the internet for that. Ooh. Guthwine. Guthwini? Éomer's sword is pretty good. Each time a model armed with his sword rolls a natural 6 to wound, making a strike, they can immediately make an additional wound roll against the same target. That doesn't continue on forever, but obviously if he's charging in on a horse, knocks his target over, he's getting 4 attacks, knocking them over, rolling 8 dice. You're probably going to get 1 or 2 6s. He can then roll again. That could make him a really potent hero killer. Love that. And Firefoot moves 12. So he's got a 12-inch move on his horse. Lovely stuff. So Éowyn and Durnelm now look like they're one and the same, or not separate profiles anymore. So you can take Merry as a passenger. If he's a passenger, Éowyn's attacks go up to 3, and she can spend Merry's Might, Will and Fate as if it were her own. So how many points is that going to be then? So 60 for Éowyn, armor 65, Merry's 25, so that's 90. Horse makes you 110, and then if you go Shield and Throne Spear, she's a 120 point hero now, which feels a lot more on point. I'm not a Rohan player though, and I have suffered at the hands of Durnelm a few times, so I'm glad to see the back of it, but it feels just about the right power level. You're probably still wanting to take Éomer first, and then quickly following it up with Éowyn. So this is one of the changes that I got told to me at Throne of Schools when we went, but the royal standard of Rohan has now changed. It's a 6-inch banner, and any model within 6 inches of it that spends a point of might, sorry, any Rohan hero model within 6 inches of it that spends a point of might rolls a dice. On the roll of a 6, the might's free. Much more balanced, and I like that it isn't just for the late game now as well, or you don't just burn your might immediately. Cool little rule, nice bonus, encourages bubbling up. It doesn't say it can only happen once. So you're going to clump your cavalry all together and charge around in this big block around the banner. It's going to feel like charging at Pelennor, in theory. He's also fight value 5 now, so well done Gamlen. Right. Oh, still not got to the War of the Rohirrim profiles yet. Hammer, also fight value 5, and he gets dominant 2 if Theoden's around him. That's pretty cool. Oh, he's gone down to 2 might. I think he was 3 before. 60 points, no horse option, only heroic defense. He's probably not the first hero you're looking to take. Haleth still has the rule where he gives Rohan infantry and Aragorn +1 to their fight value. So that sends Aragorn up to fight value 8. That is insane. I guess he's only going to be in the Helm's Deep Legendary Legion, but still, insane. Aldor's great profile as usual. Helm Hammerhand, King of Rohan. I haven't seen this yet. I've seen Hera, but I haven't seen Helm. Let's go. 3 might, 3 will, 3 fate. Fight value 6. Strength 5, defense 7. 3 wounds, 3 attacks. So he's got his two-handed weapon, hand weapon, and horn of the hammerhand. He's got burly. We needed that. So strength 5 burly. He's going to be hitting hard. He's not got mighty blow, which I thought maybe he would have, and we can talk about it now. He's obviously bringing down Mumakil in the film. I thought he might get burly and mighty blow, so he can just be taking the legs out the Mumakil. He can give enemy models within 24 -1 courage, and he can declare a heroic combat for free. However, when he slays an enemy model for the rest of the battle, whenever Helm moves, he must charge an enemy if possible. Love that. Wow. On his horse, that's 185 points. That feels like a lot. I'm not going to lie. Maybe with the mighty blow, that would have been about right, but 185 points, 3 attacks, strength 5 burly, fight value 6, 3 heroic combat. I guess what you've got there is an Elendil type character, and I'd pay 200 for him. So probably about right. Looking forward to getting him on the table. I might have to go for a Helm Hammerhand themed Legion. Halath and Hammer I saw before they were revealed with the starter set, but essentially Halath's good in combat. This is a different Halath and Hammer from before, by the way. So Halath, 3 attacks, bit of a fighter. Again, thought he'd have the mighty blow after what he does to that Mumakil. So Hammer he's not a particularly good bowman. He hits on a 3+, he's just got a regular bow. But he has got heroic accuracy if he wants to help those around him. And he's got sharpshooter, so he can snipe away mounts. He's only got 2 points of might though, and then he's got this rule, Warrior Poet. Can spend a will point, which lets friendly Rohan models within 6 inches of him re-roll natural ones. That's fine. So I have seen Hera. Pretty happy with that profile, not too overpowered. And then we've obviously got Hera the Bride, who will be coming up soon. Ooh, Leaf and Freyleth. So yeah, Hera Bride of Death is a little bit more powerful. But Hera's very similar in vein to Eowyn, except you've got this special rule. If there's only one model on either side and they're unsupported, she's this master duelist, she'll increase her attacks characteristics to 3 and will re-roll rolls of a natural 1 when rolling to wound. And she's got Ashir, who's the horse that can move 12 inches and go through woodland terrain, but only if she's not charging, like that. Olwen, after seeing the film, was the hero I was most excited to see. So let's see her rules. Fight value 5, strength 4, 3 attacks, defense 5. She's got light armor, a shield, and a hand weapon. Heroic defense and resolve. So no heroic strike for Olwen. She will have a horse option, which means we're going to get a very cool model. While she's outnumbered in combat, enemy models will require a 6 to wound her when making strikes, regardless of their strength. It's not a natural 6, they can use might points. That's a cool rule, so she's defense 5, but if she plows into a group of goblins, for example, they're still going to need 6s to wound her. Love that. So Leaf is cool. He can have a horse, so I'm looking forward to seeing the model again. And he can spend one of his 5 will points to activate a special order each turn, which have different effects. So they've all got a 3-inch range. A friendly Rohan hero models can declare heroic combat for free. They gain the Fearless special rule. Don't suffer -1 for moving and shooting. And can reroll failed to hit rolls. They can gain the Woodland Creature and Mountain Dweller special rule, or they can increase their movement by 2. He's going to be very popular. 50 points, 70 on a horse feels expensive. I'm loving that all of a sudden 3 horses is 60 points and you might be better off on foot. I like the strategy around him. It's a little bit weird that he's weak to magic. In theory, if someone wanted to magic him, by using a will to resist it, you'd be losing a special order. But I love the amount of strategy he adds. So you can add 2 to your movement for the first turn of the game, then have a little shot, and then get a free heroic combat with a few of your heroes. Freelof's cool. I only know him from the film. I know he's a bit of a fan favourite for the people that know the story. He's only got 2 might, which I think is interesting, but his fight value 6 and 3 attacks. And if he's within 6 inches of Hera, he gets Master of Battle 4+, which I guess, similar to how I'm thinking Gambling might operate, you might want to bunch up around Leaf and Freylaf and Hera all together to make the most of all their synergies, which is quite cool. Helm Hammerhand Wraith of the Hornburg I have seen, and I'm very happy with his profile. In short, he's a beast. Fight value 7. He has got Mighty Blow and Burly, although he's unarmed. 3 attacks, 3 wounds, 180 points. Can't ever be your leader, and he's got the same free heroic combat rule as the previous Helm. Looks pricey for what he is, but I might be missing something there. He's cool. I know, having seen the film, I'm really looking forward to getting that model on the table as well. Hela, Bride of Death I've seen. Fight value 6, strength 4, defense 5, 3 attacks, 3 wounds. And she's got this incredible special rule. Enemy models engaged with Hela can't declare a heroic strike. That makes her the ultimate hero assassin. And in a turn that she charges, she must reroll failed wound rolls when making strikes. I don't know why there isn't a horse option, but that probably balances the profile a little bit. But Hera and Helm together is just going to be an unstoppable duo. Although I suppose they're not actually together in the film, so they might not have an army list together. I think he goes out to the gate and does what he does, and then she becomes kind of Bride of Death. Looking forward to flicking forward and having a look at that in a minute. Rohan warriors don't seem to have changed much, with 2 exceptions. Arise Riders of Rohan, you get +1 fight value if you're within 12 inches of the Rohan general. It doesn't have to be Theoden anymore, so actually we've got a little bit more leeway in how to build the army now, because you really do need that +1 fight value. I thought maybe +1 strength might be on the charge, might be baked into a Rider of Rohan. It's not. I'm hoping that's still going to be a thing when we get to like the Pelennor Legendary Legions and things. Or army lists, sorry. And Warriors of Rohan and Royal Guard also have Spear Mastery, so they can use throwing spears as normal spears, as long as they've not already thrown them in that turn. And you're limited to 33% throwing spears now, so there will be a mix of things on show, but that probably balances that out a little bit. Very cool rule. On to Gondor. Boromir, Captain of the White Tower, has had quite the buff. So he's fight value 7 now instead of 6. But when he charges in, he gets +1 to wound. So he's essentially getting a free lance. There's no lance on his war gear anymore. But now you can have the banner and the lance. They have made the banner worse though, which I'm massively in favour of. I didn't love that it was an auto-include. You're probably going to include it anyway now, but it's not going to be super overpowered. So it's a 6-inch banner. He doesn't get the -1 dual roll for using it, of course. But it's the same as Theoden's sword. When you're tied fight value, the banner gives you the edge and you end up winning. But it's not going to bring a fight for Fountain Court level with an elf. But if a fight for Fountain Court is battling in Uruk High, the Fountain Court will win that. I like that. So it's just taken the edge off the banner and made it much more palatable. Faramir is one I have seen, and I'm very happy with him. He's got 3 attacks now and is just more like we see him in the films, basically. I especially like this rule. If Faramir is alive on the battlefield and you give priority to your opponent, then Faramir and friendly warrior models within 3 inches of him gain the dominant 2 special rule. So thematically, he's holding a Skiliath. Gothmog's coming at him, but he's holding that objective, and that's represented by the dominant 2 rule. He can also declare heroic resolve for free after his army is broken, and can re-roll failed to wound rolls when making strike after his army is broken, which is not going to be super useful, but it's pretty good. Oh, it's fight value 6. So it's fight value 6, 3 attacks. And he can lead Citadel Guard. Very much enjoying Faramir's profile. Gandalf the White is next, and it looks like he's an absolute combat beast now. Fight value 6, 3 attacks. He's strength 4, but obviously he's got Glamdring to make him strength 5. He can re-roll his failed fate just like normal. He can take Pippin as a passenger, and whilst Pippin is mounted on Shadowfax, Gandalf gains resistance to magic and can re-roll wounds of a natural 1. And he can spend Pippin's might, will and fate as if they were his own. That's amazing. Shadowfax himself has got 2 will and a fate as well. His spells don't look like they've got that much better compared to Gandalf the Grey. He's much more of a combat wizard now. Let me have a look. 3s, 4s, 5s. So his spells are marginally better. Like Gandalf the White does Blinding Light on a 3+, whereas Gandalf the Grey does it on a 4+. But then Strength and Will is a 4+ for both of them. So he's a little bit better, not loads better. He's still Sorcerer's Blasting on a 5+. I'm very happy with that profile though. We just see him hacking stuff down at Minas Tirith. Obviously he's got his Banishment spell is added as well for getting rid of the ring wraiths that chase him out of Osgiliath. Very happy with Gandalf the White. I'm looking forward to seeing how Gandalf the White fits into the army list as well. There's got to be a Minas Tirith one. There's got to be a Black Gate one. At the Black Gate one, is he going to lose his staff? And at the Minas Tirith one, is he going to get some kind of troop rallying bonus? Pippin's not really changed. Irolas has an extra fate now, so he's 2 wounds, 2 might, 1 will, 2 fate. Still fight value 5. And he can lead Citadel Guard. And he, just like before, he can shield and make a strike. And friendly Citadel Guard within 3 inches of Irolas gain a bonus of +1 to wound. Louis will be very happy about that. He's a big Irolas fan. So Damrod's had quite an upgrade. So he's fight value 4, strength 4, defense 5, shoot 3+. But he's 2 attacks and 2 wounds now. 1 might, 1 will, 1 fate. And he's got a special rule. The first time he fails and in the way, take an intelligence test. If it's passed, the shot hits instead. Madril hasn't changed much, neither have Rangers of Gondor. Osgiliath veterans now have Hatred Mordor. They needed that. That could be very useful. And they can re-roll wound rolls of a natural 1 when making strikes within 6 inches of Boromir or Faramir. That's fine. I guess what you're taking them for now is the chance you play Mordor. So that's essentially strength 5 versus Mordor. You might just sprinkle a few of these guys in whether you've got Boromir or Faramir or not. So Minas Tirith warriors we know have had the fight value increased to fight value 4, as of the Knights of Minas Tirith. They're the ones that are really going to benefit from this. Well, they're now 15 points base. I do think a Knight of Minas Tirith is probably going to be quite good now though. Trebuchets are basically the same, but obviously the firing arc has now changed. So they're potentially going to be worse. Oh, Elendil is listed as Gondor. Elendil and Isildur. You know how much I love my last alliance. Okay. Please don't have changed too much. Elendil is fight value 8. Strength 5, fight 8, defense 7 because he can't take a shield. And Narsil still gives a free heroic combat. 12-inch standfast is very, very similar to how he used to be. It's 175 points. Crucially, no horse, no shield. He's still going to be a beast though. And at fight value 8, he might even be heroic combating through trolls. Unless they've gone up. Isildur, fight value 7. And Isildur's fight value 7 and can take the 1 ring. So he's going to be halving the fight value in one-on-one fights. That's going to be crazy. Or in fights without other friendly models. That makes him a big kind of hero assassin. Interesting. He can also pick up the shards of Narsil if Elendil is slain. When he does pick them up, he gets +1 to wound when making strikes. So it doesn't give him the free heroic combat, but that's pretty cool. Oh, I'm still on the Numenor. Love me the Numenor. Numenor now has fight value 5 and longbows. They're very elf-like. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I know the people that loved the lore wanted them to go up to fight value 5 and get the longbows and that kind of thing. But I liked tactically on the battlefield how you had to maneuver depending on who you wanted where. I presume elves are still going to be fight value 5. Maybe if elves are fight value 6, it's the same difference. But that seems a stretch. I'm loving the Numenor though. Right, the dead I have heard a little bit about. They've had their movement increased to 8 inches, which is perfect. If you imagine that scene in the film, they just wipe through everything. Movement 8, fight value 6 on the King of the Dead. He's obviously still a tank with his 3 wounds and 3 fate as well. Love it. Leon will be very, very happy about that. Spectral Steeds move 12 now. So the Riders of the Dead can move 12. 25 points though. Next up, Elves. And you know how I love my Last Alliance. I want Gil-galad and Elrond to be decent. As much as I love my Last Alliance, I don't think I've ever used Elrond. I played against him in the massive Last Alliance battle report we did. And I've played against him at a few tournaments, but I've never actually used him. But Gil-galad, that's my boy. I've taken him to multiple tournaments. I'm hoping he's not changed too much. Still fight value 9. We know he's lost his horse and his shield. It is what it is. His stat line is otherwise the same. Still getting +1 to wound from the spear. He's got heroic challenge, resolve, and strength. No heroic strike on Gil-galad. Interesting. I wonder if that's so he can't just best Sauron all the time. Interesting. And I guess what it means thematically as well is if Sauron has strike, Sauron can now best Gil-galad, which thematically is probably correct. He can still have Kingsguard. Okay, future Jake here. Just talking about Gil-galad, I missed off something very important. He doesn't have Blood and Glory, so he's lost his horse, his shield, he can't heroic strike. It just shows how powerful Gil-galad was, but crucially, he doesn't get a point of might back when he kills a hero now. That's the whole strategy with Gil-galad, or my whole strategy with Gil-galad. It's going to be a very different way to use him now. And Last Alliance is one of the lists I've seen, and I know they've got a very powerful rule, but maybe that's why. Maybe because Elendil and Gil-galad both lost their horse, and Gil-galad losing Blood and Glory is not good. The whole strategy with that was you go kill the little heroes. You can literally one-shot a captain with Gil-galad, get the point of might back for free, bounce back into your line, and then you just strangle the game from the opponent. They lose 2 might here, 2 might there. All of a sudden you've got Gil-galad with 3 might, Elendil doing 3 heroic combats. There's no way then they can win. You then tag their remaining heroes, take away the standfast, let the warriors run. And even if you started with 17 models, they've got nothing left. It's going to be a very, very different way of playing now. Kingsguard have fight value 6. So they're still so there's no model for those. Maybe we'll get a 4-droid model for them, but that surprises me. I mean, I thought they'd taken the horses and shields out because they don't sell them. Yet Kingsguard is still a thing. Elrond's up to fight value 7. Hadafang is the same, +1 to wound against spirits. He's still got his Foresight, Lord of the West, and his magical powers. Oh, Arwen has Hadafang as well. I didn't realise her and Elrond shared a sword. That's pretty cool. So she can get +1 to wound against spirits as well. Círdan then has had a bit of a debuff. So 75 points, 1 might, 4 will, 1 fate. He gets 1 free will per turn, just like he currently does, but his spells have changed, and that's what's key. Fog of Disarray is going to make intelligence tests harder. Blessing of the Valor restores a fate point. Call Winds can blow models out of combat. Enchanted Blades obviously powers people up to strength 6. And Aura of Dismay now does -1 courage within 6 inches. So he's got a lot of tools and tricks that can be useful at certain points in the game. But he's not just put all your exhaustion spells on and stand at the back of the army and bubble up around him type model. You're going to have to think when you're using him a bit more. Hopefully it means Call Winds might actually be used as well. Just blowing models out of the combat. That could be quite cool. Lindy is basically the same, but he's got a couple of his own spells now. Foil, Magic, and Renew. So him and Elrond together can be quite the Healy pair. Rivendell captains can take horse, but it comes with horse, bow, and Elven Lance, as is meant to be built with the Rivendell Knight kit. They've also got options for a shield, so you're either 70 points or 100 or 105. But and they're only fight value 6, so elves almost definitely have remained fight 5. Yeah, so elves are fight 5, and I did hear that they could take shields, and they can. I find that very strange with the whole cutting back of profiles. I thought basically they were going to build a list that made you take the turned weapons on the front row, as we see in the film. I mean, that is filmy. What I'm hoping this means is there are plastic Last Alliance or plastic Rivendell warriors on the way. And if there's plastic Rivendell on the way, they can't have Numenor in a joint box with old Rivendell, so hopefully plastic Numenor as well. It's got to be coming at some point. I always thought it'd be like the next big starter set: plastic Numenor, plastic elves, new plastic orcs, new Sauron, new Gilgalad, new Elendil, with War of the Rohirrim, and then potentially Hunt for Gollum or future films. I don't see that happening, but maybe there'll be something like that for like a mini expansion. Maybe not all plastic, of course. So we're on to kind of Lothlorien now. So the Mirror of Galadriel has changed. So, well, first, Galadriel can take Lorien guards who can re-roll wound rolls of 1 when making strikes for an extra point. Again, didn't realise that kind of stuff would be in here. I'm happy it is. But the mirror, if she's in base contact with it, after priority has been rolled, you can add 1 to that priority roll. And it can restore 1 fate to 1 friendly hero within 6 inches in the end phase of a turn. She's got Compel, Transfix, Blessing of the Valor, Blinding Light, Fog of Disarray, and Foil Magic. Blinding Light seems to be a 4+ with everybody, and obviously you can't channel it now either, so it is going to be a case of hoping you roll that 4+ as you walk up to Archer Heavy Armies. As someone who much prefers getting stuck in, I'm hoping the bows don't become overpowered, but from what I've seen, that's not going to be the case. But it is just in the back of my mind. Okay, so Celeborn, there's no armoured option, so armoured Celeborn must be being retired. He's very much the counsellor Celeborn we see in the Fellowship of the Ring, or maybe in the Armies of Middle-earth book, we'll get the armoured Celeborn. Either way, warriors within 3 inches of him are going to get +1 to wound when making strikes, similar to Thranduil. He also gets a 3 point of will per turn. It's Transfix, Awe of Dismay, Enchanted Blades, and Writhing Vines. Writhing Vines creates an area of difficult terrain, so if you've got elven bows and you can make it so they hit you a turn later, that could be really good. I'm very excited to give him a go. 125 points. Obviously defense 4. Oh, 1 attack. Oh, he really is like a counsellor then. I still like to try him, but Galadriel and Lothlorien are the Galadriel and Lothlorien of the Third Age in the Fellowship that we see in the film. These guys are not getting stuck in on the front line and doing any of the heavy lifting. Interesting. Haldir and Galadriel captains are largely unchanged. They both have the sharpshooter special rule, but I don't think anything else has really changed there. Same with Galadriel warriors, or Glathrim warriors. There's no Glathrim knights here, but I guess they'll be in the Armies of Middle-earth, but they weren't retired from the range. And Wood Elves and Wood Elf captains are also largely unchanged. That is it. I'm now on to the army lists. I hope you enjoyed that. Tomorrow we've got the Armies of the Lord of the Rings, where I'll be able to offer a little bit more insight into maybe how they'll play on the battlefield. It's very difficult to take the profiles in isolation. So tomorrow, Armies of the Lord of the Rings.